Hi, it's Darren Ray Fonzseau, and I want to talk about workers' comp in the state of Washington today and across America. Today, what I want to talk about is vocational rehab and my experience with vocational rehab as I went through 6 years of hell in the broken state work comp system. But what I also want to talk about is how I fought for not for injured workers, but fought for home caregivers. 17 years ago, I had to fight the state and against a big nationalized healthcare company that was placing nurses and CNAs in people's homes to take care of labor and industry patients, actually. And they didn't want to pay us the time and a half for our overtime. The L&I was paying this company, this nationalized company, $750 a day for us to take care of this man out of his home 24 hours a day, who was hurt on the job at 32 years prior to that. He had fallen and had scaffolding fall on him and made him a quadriplegic. So anyways, nonetheless, I was one of the CNAs that had to go out and take care of him, and we would stay for like 3 days at a time, 24-hour shifts. Sometimes three to back, four of them back to back, and we were wanting time and a half on our overtime because he was kind of a cantankerous old guy, and he wouldn't let nobody sleep for the 24 hours they were there. He didn't believe you should sleep. You're there to work. So anyways, nonetheless, we fought for our wages and our back wages, and ended up I had to fight the State L&I wage and recovery unit because they wouldn't help me. They were trying to tell me, well, the national company's following some national law and it's okay for them to do that. So I had to stand up and fight. It took me 9 months, just like I fought for injured workers now. I got a hold of senators, congressmen, yelled and screamed at everybody, and it ended up, after a 9-month process, the national company settled out of court, and the wage and hour division of L&I all got together and decided that, yes, they were supposed to be paying the time and a half to the back wages to these other workers, and ended up 35 people that I don't even know got paid back time and a half wages, and it was like $30,000. I can't remember what it was for all of us. Some of us only got $600. Some of them got $3,000. Some of them got $6,000. It depended on how much back pay you had coming and how many overtime hours you had put in that you didn't get paid. Nonetheless, one of the recruiters that worked for that company, that's why this kind of ties in for me. Almost 17 years later, after I'm hurt on the job and I try to go through and seek help for vocational reservices, after the work comp system fights me for the first 6 months and doesn't even want to help my claim be opened, finally when they do decide, yeah, they do own it and they're going to get me something, they send me to this voc rehab people, and that's when I finally say, oh, great. I tell after my wife and the family and everything, oh, this is awesome. They're finally going to give me some help and put me back in and put me back to work, and things are going to be done the way they're supposed to be done. My grand bargain will be honored. And then I come to find out when I go to see the vocational counselor, it ends up it was one of the recruiters at this job that I had worked at 17 years ago to recover the lost back wages for the overtime wages for the workers that weren't being paid that the state didn't really want to help me do, that I forced them to do. Nonetheless, 17 years later, almost, something like that, here I am with this vocational counselor who used to be my recruiter that would send me out to these jobs as a nursing assistant to work in these people's homes. And he remembered me, and I guess he said he was my friend because he ended up, as I went to the appointment, we had a conversation regarding how they're not going to help me, and they don't help people with voc rehab anymore, and that they had people come through the tribes who were injured, and the tribes had offered to give these people a job if they could get a job dealing cards, if they could get certified through this class that they only needed $200 for vocational services to pay for, and the state wouldn't pay for it. They would rather pay them the time loss of thousands of dollars a month for another year or two, and never wanted to pay the $200 to open up voc for the guy because they did not want to open up vocational service for the person. That's what I learned from this person while I was there. And then I got done with it, and I left the meeting thinking, well, let's see who's still going to help me, But he ended up resigning from wanting to help me, at least on my claim. I don't think he resigned from his job, but he did recuse himself from working on my claim on the grounds that we had been prior working partners or whatever, before workmates or whatever, and that we were friends, co-workers or whatever in the past, and so that he didn't feel like if he tried to help me, he might be harming his employers might look bad upon him, and if he didn't try to help me, then I would be pissed at him, his former coworker, and so he stepped to the side. And so what his real motives behind not working were, I don't really, I mean, on my claim, I really can't say, whether it was that he knew that I was not going to take somebody telling me, no, you're not going to give me voc rehab after I've been injured on the job, and I wouldn't stand up and take that. I think that's more why he was stepping to the side, because he knew I was no way I would allow the workers to be treated this way. Nonetheless, he did step to the side, and then I was sent to some other and there's another thing, it's sent to another privatized vocational rehab, and that's what this is. These are private vocational rehabs. This isn't the state DVR, which we used to get sent to. No, we're going to these private rehabs that are used as tools to try and find a reason to tell you no, rather than tell you yes and hook you up with services. Nonetheless, the next one I went to, like I said, all they did was shop for a reason to say that I was depressed, and the reason that the depression was caused before the back injury and not being able to do my job that I was doing anymore was prior to that, which was a 50-pound limit. Now I only have like a 10-pound limit. Nonetheless, the vocational rehab wasn't there trying to help me. They were trying to find a reason to shop and harm me. Anyways, so the rehab wasn't really there for me. And then I did try to go to the state DVR in the first 6 months, and they denied me then too. But also, after time had gone on, and 4 years I think had gone by, and DVR finally, workers' comp agreed that they harmed my mental health and they put me out as permanently partially disabled, I tried to go back to work again and said, great, I'll go to the Department of Vocational Rehab, and now I have, the proof of the harm that's been done to me and how I have these disabilities or because of it all, and others beyond that. And that I would seek help through the Department of Vocational Rehab, and they in turn turn around and tell me after I go through a 7-month process with them that I should seek DVR, and that their vendors and people will not rehire me, and I forget what the word is that they use, gainfully unemployable, basically, or something like that. I forget what the terminology is that they use for it all, but and so in other words, still no voc services after being harmed or injured on the job. And so that's kind of where I'm going now. That's how my vocational rehab experience as an injured worker in the state of Washington is gone. And that's why I say we are failing them. And other people are saying that we're failing the injured workers in the state of Washington too. The federal government, of course, is saying that we're failing injured workers. Senator Patty Murray, Senator Sanders, Tom Perez, all of these people say that we need some federal minimum standards, but our state lawmakers and governors all say everything's fine. No, we don't need to do anything. I'm sorry, something does need to happen. Something needs to put these privatized vocational services in check and held to account. You're not there to harm workers. You're there to help workers. And also our state DVR, it's vendors. You don't get to be a vendor if you're not going to help rehab some of the people who need to be rehabbed and put back to work. Then you don't get the tax deductions as being a vendor for DVR. That shit needs to stop. Anyways, vocational rehab services, some people do get through and get stuff turned on for them, and they're very few, and the ones that they do allow to do that get put up as poster children to say, look, we're rehabbing people, we're helping injured workers. Well, no, you're not. You're failing the majority of us. We're helping a select few and using them as poster children, while the rest of us are being purged and thrown to the streets unless we know and can have a way to fight the system and fight back. And as we do that, we have to rely on social services such as welfare, and then SSDI, which we get cost and shifted off to. This needs to stop. And then that's another thing. We'll get cost shifted off to SSI. Some of us aren't even getting the SSDI. They're getting half of what they're supposed to get on these SSI instead, because it takes so long to fight through the gauntlet and the maze that's been stacked against you. They're only getting $700 from a month on their disability retirement. This is purging people off to the federal rolls, and then you're not even giving them what they were supposed to get to start with. And then the conservatives will step up, and the corporate Dems will help them and say, oh, well, let's put you guys all back to work now. Fuck you! I am tired of this shit. You don't get to throw us to the street and then march with your little fucking signs and plug your goddamn noses and say, we're going to help the homeless. We're going to help this. We're going to stop harassment to fucking women, but yet you won't address the harm to fucking injured workers in our state. Fuck you people. You won't retrain us. You're kicking us to the curb. You don't want to retrain the old dogs because you think we're too stupid to fucking go through your 2-year degree programs, and you don't want to give us fucking like on-the-job training fucking alternatives instead. And the only ones who are getting those are the millennials and the young, because we are purging the aging injured workers to the fucking streets, and rather than honor the goddamn grand bargain after 30 and 20 and 40 years of repetitive stress jobs. Fuck you people. I'm tired of it. This shit needs to end. Stop this facade that you help people when you fucking rub their noses in the dirt and their shit when they're hurt on the job and they report their injuries. Yet you're going to help these are ladies who are harassed on the job and talk, oh, how horrible it is, how they feel. Well, everything they're fucking feeling as an injured, harassed woman on the job is the same thing every injured worker feels too, because we all are forced to fear reporting our injuries. And then when we do, we are treated like shit and chastised and shunned and called losers. Fuck you people. I will not tolerate it no fucking more. This shit needs to stop. Governor Jay, speak the fuck up. Federal lawmakers, where are you at? Rick Larson, where are you at? Senator Japala, you said you were going to be different, that you would speak up, that you would help. You are not speaking up for the federal oversight that we need. You are not demanding the minimum federal standards, and across this country, people are dying. We're getting PTSD state by state, for some for cops and first responders. The only reason we're getting that is because the oligarchs have said, oh, well, we'll take care of the Roman soldiers, because we don't take care of the Roman soldiers, they're not going to want to protect us when the other ones rise up, because we're not helping the rest of them. And why can't we get some federal minimum standards, not just for cops, but for every injured worker across this country who suffers PTSD or suffers a workplace shooting? We can all be exposed to that. None of us are immune from that any fucking more. So why is it we're getting PTSD and reinventing the wheel here and reinventing the wheel here, and labor's got to come together and fight their Republicans, their Democrats in their state, and that one in that state. Reinventing the wheel. Why not be some PTSD with some minimum federal standards that cover us fucking all? Not selecting and picking and choosing workers that we're going to defend and fight and stand up for. So we got the high-ranking Hanford workers that make large money. We're going to stand and fight for them. We're going to stand up for all the other ones that are good union workers, but the fucking 400 farm workers we want to bend over and fuck. This needs to stop. CNAs, low-line CNAs you don't want to help. Construction workers you don't want to fucking help unless they're unionized. What about the rest of us? Where are our union leaders with the federal minimum standards and holding the politicians' feet to the fire and telling them, God damn it, we will not endorse you unless you demand the minimum federal standards from the Republicans and from the Democrats that us fucking laborers need. This shit needs to stop. You don't get to castrate us and throw us to the fucking street after we are harmed or injured on the goddamn jobs. Throw us through litigious litigation through years on fucking end. This is violating our human rights. And by God, I am asking for either fucking the UN or somebody to step in, because this government is out of fucking control. Good day.